What's up guys, this is Fedor and today I have a really special one for you because I want to share with you what I believe the 3 biggest mistakes our poker players make. Number 1, they don't show up prepared. The game starts before the game starts. You have to get prepared before the game. And there's so many aspects before playing poker. One aspect is bankroll management. Bankroll management is such an important aspect of that. You need to think about how much money you want to risk, how much bankroll you have, how much money you have in income as well, and then choose your buy-ins accordingly. Don't play over your limits. Another thing is selection. The tournaments you select or the cash games you select, it is so important for amateurs, for hobby players, for professionals, whatever level you play at is, select the games you play in well. Whether it's local live casinos around the rig or the players you play with, maximize your fun, maximize your, or minimize your loss and maximize your win. Like, this is really important. There are so many games out there you can play, so many stakes you can play, different casinos, online, live, so many tournaments there are, so many festivals. Selecting the tournaments you play is another really important part of the preparation. Another aspect of prep is the mindset. I've seen so many people show up with too little sleep, unprepared mentally for the game they're playing, not ready to go for a 12-hour session. They didn't even think about how many days the tournament might take. They have made other plans, or they do something in the evening or go partying. So if you play a tournament or if you play a poker tournament, you sign up for something longer. So make sure you're prepared for the grind. So to sum up, the first really big mistake players across all different stakes make is they don't show up prepared. So make sure you're the one showing up prepared. Know which tournaments or cash games you want to play, choose the right buy-in size, and be mentally prepared for the game ahead of you. With this, you have the first step done already. Really important if you want to get into the competition. Now to the second mistake that a lot of beginners make when they start playing poker and still do for a very long time is they play too loose passive. Loose passive is generally the play style of most players who begin. They call too much, they don't raise enough, they don't bet aggressive enough, and they're just very easy to play against because you basically just extract value over and over again. Make sure you're not the sucker in the game. Don't play loose passive. Don't call too many hands. Don't limp in speculative hands. Play a more tight aggressive style. So let me expand a little bit more on some examples of where that might happen. So first, it's really important to understand position. One of the biggest mistakes, especially beginners make, is that they limp in from early position and don't understand that every position is very different, because in the first position you have 6, 7, 8 players behind you, and in later positions it's only 1 or 2 players that you have behind you. And that is so fundamentally important, because think about all the good hands that could still be in the mix. If there's 7 players behind you that could have aces or kings or queens or ace-king, then you want to play more cautiously and want to play more tight, so less hands. When there's only 1 or 2 players behind you, they have relatively many more speculative hands, so you can play a more aggressive style and play a wider range. To think that more flexibly and be like, okay, now I'm early position and there's a lot of players behind me, I need to play pretty tight. And then later position you can play wider ranges. So to put that in perspective, maybe from early position you only want to play 18–20% of your hands, but then from the button you want to play 50% of your hands. Yeah, so the gap is really big. A lot of the beginners I see making the mistake is that they kind of play the same hands. As they have an ace, they're like, okay, let me limp this hand because it looks like a decent hand, and they don't think about the relation to the other players. So it's very important to take more of these information into account. So players behind you and their relative hand strength, or the hands they can have, is really important. And that ties in with this idea of a loose passive playstyle and why it's not that great to play loose passive. Another reason is there are a lot of situations where you want to take the lead. And if you're too passive, you miss out on a lot of value with your strong hands. So when you're a passive player, it's really easy to identify when playing against you. It's like, if you bet, you know, okay, the guy has a really strong hand. And he's probably also not bluffing because he's too passive. So don't be that passive guy where everyone else always knows is when you're betting you have a strong hand. And that's why aggression is so important. You need to have bluffs that you want to be bluffing. And you also don't only want to bet with your really strong hands, but sometimes you want to have some more marginal hands. This level of aggression is much better than playing this passive style where people know, oh, if you bet, you have a strong hand, and if you check, you have a weaker hand. So it makes it really, really easy to play against you. So a loose passive player is the dream for a professional like me, because it's very straightforward, very easy to exploit, very easy to play against. So that's why I'm saying the second biggest mistake is to play a too loose passive style, and you need to get rid of that if you want to get to the next level. What I suggest you is try to play more aggressive, try to play tight. We call the style tight aggressive or tag, and that is, I'm promising you, going to be a big improvement to your game. So think about times where you can put in more bets with bluffs and also thin value bets, we call it. So good hands that are good but not really, really strong. And try to not play too speculative hands pre-flop specifically, because that will make a big impact. If you fold the speculative hands from early position and don't limp, that's really important, don't limp, then you will make your life much, much easier. Let's tackle the third really big mistake a lot of players make, and this is across all skill levels from beginners to absolute professionals and also a lot of players I study with and myself. This is regarding every poker player, but I still want to mention this because I actually think it's one of the biggest reasons that holds people back in their development is poker players overestimate their abilities. Period. Everyone does it. It's just a matter of the degree. What can we do about this? Be the guy who always asks the question. Even if you think you're right or you're a really good pro, never talk down to someone. Don't think you're something better. Don't think you have the solution, because nobody has the solution. A lot of things that we believed in 2014 and 15 is just plain wrong right now. We know a much better approach to it. And this will happen with years and years. It will happen again and again and again. So don't overestimate your abilities. If you can hone the skill to be realistic and to really try to challenge yourself and to always ask a question in a positive, framed way, then that will help your growth, both on a personal and on a professional level, a lot. I promise you, this has been the key driver in my growth as a poker player and my professional career is I really always try to ask these questions. What am I doing well? Where can I improve? What are the blind spots I might have? So especially if I play a spot and I consider it standard and it will never change, is why do I think that? Is there some angle I can take where this might change, right? And everything you believe about poker right now, to have an approach or some way of thinking about it where that is subject to change, right? People went from raising really large to min-raising pre-flop, and now they raise larger again. So you can see there's always a development of people do something, then there's an exploit against what people do, and then they think that is the ultimate thing, and then there is another exploit to what people are doing now, and then they think that's the best. So it's always this iteration. So be ahead of the curve and anticipate already that whatever you know about poker right now, it will change. There will be new answers. There will be better answers. There will be better players. I went through this. I was probably one of the best players in the world in 2015, and there are better players now. There are quite some better players because they have studied and worked and have new ideas and had 6 years of time to improve and work with solvers and challenged each other, and that's how you progress and that's how you iterate. So if there's one thing that I can give you on your way, and the biggest mistake I see players make across all stakes is don't overestimate yourself. And in the more positively framed way, always ask these challenging questions. Always look for that room where you can improve, where you can get better, and never look down at someone. Always see it as a challenge, as an interesting input, as a new viewpoint. It will make personal relationship much nicer also with other players, even if you consider them weaker. There's always something you can learn. I learned a lot from my students. I learned a lot from the people that I coach that play lower limits. It helped me articulate my thoughts, and it gave me input of how they think and how I play against them. So that type of challenge of any viewpoint and even my own ones where I think I do something well, to question that and improve that and then become better. That was one of the things that made me a really, really good player. And if I can give you something on your way, if you want to improve at poker, if you want to get to the next level, then ask these questions. So these are my 3 mistakes. Let's sum them up. First, be prepared. Show up for the game before the game starts. Second, don't play loose passive. Play a tight aggressive style and don't limp around. It's just not gonna do you any good. Third, don't overestimate yourself. Stay sharp, ask these questions, keep an open mind, question everything that's out there, and you'll be a much better poker player. I'm Fedor. I hope this helped you. And if you like this type of content, leave us a subscribe. It really shows us that you like what we're doing and gives us a lot of motivation. So I wish you a wonderful rest of the week. All the best. Cheers.